Slice of Life, Episode 3. That's Billy Harner. I'm Keith Rad. This is the show where we try to bring smiles to your timeline every single day. We're all dying for a little bit of fun, and hopefully we can bring that to you. Billy's gone outdoors today, taking this show on the road, the open blue skies of Wantagh. Nice day outside. The sun. I haven't seen the sun from my New York City apartment in weeks, Bill.
Yeah, I heard a rumor that there was this big yellow thing in the sky, so I wanted to go outside and see what it was. It turned out the sun is still here. The world is still spinning. So I figured I'd take the show outside for a day.
So it brings us to favorite social slice. I will start off today because the sun and the weather is starting to turn to baseball season, and I miss it so much. So video number 1 comes from Mets Farm Report, which has been awesome. They take you kind of behind the scenes of the Mets minor leagues, and they put a video out the other day of Tony DeBrell and Quinn Brody, guys that have been in the organization already, eating dinner with Brett Beatty.
It's like going crazy for me when I got picked. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
For you this evening, we have our house specialty. It's going to be our beggar's purse. It's a pear and goat cheese stuffed ravioli with a truffle cream sage sauce, spaghetti and giant meatball with a little bit of ricotta and melted mozzarella. We have our lamb chop lollipops with a mushroom marsala, veal chopped salt and boca in the center. That's going to be done with an herb cream sauce with a little sun-dried tomatoes. And last, we have our fruta de mar, which is a seafood pasta and a slightly spicy red sauce over spaghetti.
Thanks so much.
Enjoy.
Nice, thank you.
So Brett Beatty's obviously the first-round pick of the Mets this year. All 3 guys were in Brooklyn at one time. But, Bill, in this video, you see minor leaguers eating together, which just brought me back to the good old days of like when there was a baseball team that we could kind of hang out with. And the best part of the video too is as they're eating this amazing Italian meal, Quinn Brody says to Tony DeBrell, "Don't you still eat Chick-fil-A before every start?" And Tony like freaks out, like, "Don't say that." But at the end of the day, as nice as his food was, they're still minor leaguers at heart. They still eat, crap fast food like the rest of us.
Yeah, boys will be boys for sure. They all have the dietitians and they have the food plans that they're supposed to follow. But first of all, a meal at Tutti Fresco is few and far between for minor league guys. It's more like gas station hot dogs and taquitos from a mobile on the run. If you can find some food after a game. But it's always cool to see guys, different stages of their career. Quinn has been around for a few more years. They're up in St. Lucie or Binghamton. And then Brett, who was just finished the season with us last year. So getting sort of showing him the ropes and showing around lovely Port St. Lucie. And Tutti Fresco, for an insider tip, if you're ever going to go to spring training, Tutti Fresco is like one of the higher end restaurants, I suppose, down in St. Lucie. And it's one of the only Italian spots that's in walking distance of sort of where everything is. So if you go there, you'll definitely run into some folks. We were down there for spring training for the ring ceremony a few weeks ago. And we went out to dinner to Fresco, and Jacob deGrom, Steven Matz, a bunch of guys were there for dinner as well. So it's a good place to do some stargazing, I suppose.
See that? You get the tips and tricks on Slice of Life. Billy, you saw something cool that's kind of been sweeping the nation a little bit. Parades?
Yeah, I know for all of us, I think of parades, I think of giant balloons and New Year's Day with roses, probably marching bands, whatever you got. But, now that we're all sort of socially distancing and spending a lot of time inside, there's been a different kind of parade that's sort of been taking over the world here. So this all kind of got started in my consciousness last week when the teachers from my son's school came by and they sent out an Instagram post and then a phone call earlier in the day and said, all of our teachers are going to be going on a parade through the neighborhood, honking our horns, saying hello, we miss you. So that got things started. I'd never heard of it before. I'd never seen it before. So it was cool to see how excited my son got. He's in kindergarten. So seeing his teacher was an excitement level that hasn't been seen since, the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan a few decades ago. So he was all amped up. And then talking to some other people in our organization, Kevin Mahoney, who's our general manager, his son Brennan was having his 10th birthday, and then obviously couldn't have his birthday party like a normal 10-year-old would. So all of his friends got together and they made some signs and drove by the house and were wishing him a happy birthday from a distance. And then my last one that I saw was Jackson and Croy Zawecki in Wisconsin. They were supposed to have joint birthday parties, 5 and 3, and they couldn't again, obviously. And the first responders in the community got together and started their own parade with fire engines and police cars and ambulances. And of course, my favorite part was they brought their own party hats and stickers to celebrate with the kids. So, we're all sort of in this together, and everybody's been a kid, and how big a birthday is, and you count down to your birthday like it's your 21st every year. So it was it's cool to see people still trying to spread smiles and doing sort of what we're doing here.
Chicken Parm heroes, some heroes in the community. We've talked about it on this show numerous times, the people who make a difference at the highest level, but sometimes you love the stories at the low level. And Billy, you found a one TJ Kim who has to put the lacrosse stick back in the garage for a little bit.
Yeah, when I first read this story, I tried to go back to when I was 16 years old and put myself in this situation when I was 16. And I probably there would have been a lot of video games, a lot of instant messaging on AOL because I'm that old, and sleep, definitely a lot of sleep. But for 16-year-old TJ Kim, his experience has been a little different. And TJ was understandably bummed when his lacrosse season got canceled. But rather than sitting around and sleeping and playing video games, he was a little more productive than 16-year-old Billy would have been. And he took things into his own hands here. So TJ is a sophomore at Landon High School in Bethesda, and he used his extra downtime to continue his flying lessons. Yes, flying planes, not like drones, not like remote control helicopters. This kid is flying a plane. Under supervision, of course, he's under flying lessons. So he started something that he called Operation SOS, which is supplies over skies, and delivering medical supplies to some of the rural hospitals outside of the main metropolitan areas in the Virginia, Maryland, D.C. area. So most recently, he delivered 3,000 gloves, 1,000 head covers, 500 shoe covers, 50 non-surgical masks, 20 sets of protective eyewear, and 10 bottles of concentrated hand sanitizer to help a hospital in Woodstock, Virginia. So his goal as he continues these lessons is to spread out a little bit further away from the metropolitan areas that and continue delivering these supplies. So TJ that's an unbelievable mindset for a kid who's 16 years old to have that sort of foresight into what he wanted to do and not just sit around and, people are killing the young kids for going on spring break and doing all these things. So it's nice to see people that also get it and are doing the right thing here.
Yeah, and you're kind of prefacing the story, and when you showed it to me, I'm like, oh wow, a 16-year-old. Yeah, when I was 16, I wasn't doing anything. At least this kid's doing something. But then you take it to the next level where he's a pilot, which is pretty nuts. And that actually is a great tie into kind of mine, which is that Delta Airlines. They're helping out as well. So we'll keep the plane metaphor here, bringing supplies to those in need. Delta Airlines, obviously, nobody's really flying right now unless it's super essential, and nobody's hanging out in airports eating food. So Delta has all this food on its hands, and they are donating 200,000 pounds of food, which I want to ask you, I don't even know what that means, because the only time I've ever weighed my food is at some food cafeteria, and I still don't know what an egg roll weighs or rice, but 200,000 pounds sounds pretty big.
Yeah, it's bonkers. I mean, now that we're all ordering food from home and getting things delivered, you have to tell them what you want and how many pounds of whatever. And it's like a quadratic equation that I don't understand, trying to figure out. I just want a ham sandwich, man. I don't know how many pounds is that?
Sports. Does this count as uplifting? It's kind of a story that is a little bit sad, but it makes us smile. And so it counts, at least in my book. This is from sports. Australian triathlete Miranda Carfrey. I know that we've done a great job telling stories, and we've done a great job potentially butchering names. But she's based in Boulder, Colorado. She's competing the other day in a virtual reality pro challenge women's race on Facebook Live. And her husband, Tim, tries to like crash the party and bring in all these trophies that Miranda has won. And so he stands in front of her and she's like, no, go behind me and show the camera. And as he goes behind her on the bike, he kicks out the power cord. So this woman, who's an unbelievable athlete, was in second place in the race, was just disqualified because Tim kicked out the cord. This photo is great. It's just him holding a sign that says, "My bad." And apparently Miranda still went 55 miles on her bike, which is just nuts.
And I think as both of us can relate in situations like this, where we're all quarantined and stuck with our significant others, the people, when this is all said and done, are going to be the divorce lawyers who are really excited about the direction where I think all this close quarters is going to be going. So he made it through. It seems like she took it well, but we'll see when the camera went off how things really went. Now, from my side, I keep referring back to my kids because that's really all I have currently at this point. So I am in superhero heaven here in my house. There's Spider-Man everywhere. We're watching superhero movies. We're playing with superhero video games. So I always look for something where I think there might actually be a real life superhero. And I think I found as close to a real life superhero as I found so far. So Myron Role, the name might sound familiar. He's part of the Role family, which has been a part of the NFL for a number of years. His cousin Antrell played for the Giants a few years back. He was an all-pro. So Myron grew up in New Jersey, where he played the saxophone, had the lead role in the school's production of Fiddler on the Roof, ran track, played basketball, and also just happened to be the number one football recruit in the entire country. So he was recruited by Florida State University, went to Florida State University, where he was the defensive player of the year freshman defensive player of the year during his freshman year with the Seminoles. And 2.5 years later, graduated from college because he's a superhero and graduated in 2.5 years. Went on to the NFL draft, where he was selected by the Tennessee Titans. But he said, hold on a second, I'm not going to do that yet. He was selected as a Rhodes Scholar. So he went to Oxford for a year, for his gap year between college and the NFL. He went to Oxford for a year, played in the NFL, messed around with it for 3 or 4 years, played with the Titans, the Steelers, a couple cup of coffee in between, and decided he was going to retire in 2013. Most people would have called it a career. Most people, you know what? I'm going to go try to work for CBS Sports and call college games, or I'm going to open up a steakhouse somewhere in a warm climate. He said, no. I'm going to go to medical school. So he went back to Florida State and became a neurosurgeon. So he is currently in his 3rd year as a resident at Massachusetts General Hospital as a neurosurgeon, and currently is, as he described it in the story that I was reading about this superhero of a person, he said football prepared him for dealing with COVID-19 because you are preparing for every position that you could possibly have. So he is a safety. Sometimes you got to be a corner. Sometimes you got to be a linebacker. You have to know what every position on the field is doing. So he may be a neurosurgeon, and that might not be something that is overly involved here with COVID-19, but it's all hands on deck. So he has gone from a Fiddler on the Roof leading actor in high school, Florida State Seminole, NFL player, Rhodes Scholar, brain surgeon, to now just taking care of everybody up at Massachusetts General, and absolutely mind-blowing. When you heard Role, I'm a Giants fan. Antrell Role was a big part of the team a few years ago, and it's just mind-blowing and makes me feel so inadequate in everything that I've tried to accomplish in my life, that this guy has put this thing together the way he has, and that there are people out there that are this smart and this impactful in their world.
I hope everybody sees the reason why we're doing this show is because I would have never heard about Myron Role doing those kind of things or making the impact that he's making outside of football. Just a genius, apparently. Guy who's turning his life into something that helps others. And it's so hard to be an elite athlete or an elite doctor, and now he's both. So
Yeah.
We all feel a little bit.
Put it around, like share the wealth, guy. Like, I'm sitting here in my backyard talking to Keith. Give me something. Throw me a bone.
We're going to keep that in. We're going to keep that in Slice of Life because that's the truth. Bill, enjoy the sun. Us in New York City, we don't really have a backyard. I have a fire escape. I don't think I'm allowed to go on it. There's a small succulent that is on there. My fiance loves succulents, so they get to share the sun. I don't. Enjoy it, and we'll see you tomorrow, hopefully with a tan maybe.
Yeah, I'm going to stay out here until I get all nice and crispy. Make it feel like I'm back in St. Lucie again. Maybe I'll hit up Tudo Fresco later.
Thanks, Bill.
See you later.